What up, guys? It's your buddy Aaron. Welcome back to another G35 video. Super sorry about like the super darkness in all the old videos. I just now found out how to make it a little bit lighter in here with the shitty lighting that I have. It's actually not too bad, looking pretty good right now. I'm actually looking like super ginger as fuck right now. Anyway, so today we got big things coming. We're gonna be installing the new JWT cams, the Jim Wolf technology cams. We're gonna be putting them in today. With that being said, when we're installing cams, there's a couple things and a couple precautions and measurements that we gotta take note of, and we gotta do it right. They all have a very specific measurement to them, and so once we put the cams back on there, we have to measure the distance between the bucket and the cam itself. It has to be within a certain specification for the engine to operate good. Taking a look over here, this is a diagram that I made for this engine, and I had already measured all of the hats, but I did pull one of the hats out so that I can show you guys how I pulled those measurements. So I bought this digital micrometer on Amazon for about $45. I'm gonna go ahead and reset this right now. Go ahead and set it back to 0. All right, so now that we have closed the micrometer all the way, we can go ahead and turn it on. And then we're gonna go ahead and reset it to 0. Now that I have it reset, I'm gonna go ahead and open it up to about 10 millimeters so that I can fit my bucket inside there. All right, guys, so this is one of your spring buckets. As you can see, the little pin right there, that is what sits on top of your valve. So what we're gonna be measuring is gonna be between that pin and the top of the bucket. So we're gonna be using this digital micrometer to go ahead and measure that distance. Go ahead and stick the bucket inside of the micrometer, right in between the pins. I'm gonna go ahead and close the micrometer until it pretty much fastens the bucket in place. Once it's ready, you can see the bucket is now staying in place in between the micrometer, and you're gonna hear the clicking of the micrometer. Now, they call it a micrometer because it takes microscopic measurements, and it can be different as you measure the same hat over and over again. The first time I got 8.121. As I keep pushing this and maybe moving this around, the measurements may change a little bit. As you can see, it's 8.123 now. I was able to close it in a little bit more and get more of an accurate measurement, just because there may be oil or some microscopic stuff in between the micrometer and the hat itself. So now that we know the measurement, we're gonna go ahead and jot it down and then return the hat to where it was. I got an oil cap of new oil here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just dab some oil around the sides of this bucket, and then I'm gonna go ahead and place it back where it should go. So as you guys see, I've already got all of my measurements done for all of the hats, all 24 of them. There's 12 of them on each bank. So I have the front of the engine, the back of the engine, and then we have our numbers and then our Roman numerals. So Roman numerals for all of the exhaust buckets and numbers for all of the intake buckets. And notice that most of the intake buckets are actually 8.0 something, while all of the exhaust buckets are about 8.1 something. However, they are all different, so I'm hoping we won't have to change too many, but we may have to change a few of the buckets. So the good thing about owning a VQ, you got Z1 Motorsports, they got your back. They actually sell customized hats at different sizes, so you can buy the ones that you need that'll actually fit your application and get you to the clearance that you want between the hat and the cam. So the whole point of measuring these hats is so that we can get the right amount of clearance between the hat and the cam itself. And keep in mind, guys, you cannot machine these hats. They have to be replaced. So the goal for this video is gonna be installing the new JWT cams. I'm gonna have to put them in, I'm gonna have to do the correct torque sequence, and luckily I have the full service manual, so I was able to download the part where you have the torque sequence and how many inch-pounds you have to torque all of the brackets down to. So if you guys are doing the same thing, you guys wanna follow along and get this full service manual, you guys can download it. I got a link in the description. It's actually just a website, real easy, bunch of PDFs you can open about all the different parts on servicing your G35. So this is gonna make a little bit more sense once we start measuring the clearance. But for our intake buckets, we're gonna want pretty much between 0.010 and 0.013, and for the exhaust, 0.011 and 0.015 inches. Obviously in millimeters, we got 0.26 to 0.34 and 0.29 to 0.37. From what I've been seeing online, a lot of people wanna stick to 0.12 for intake and 0.13 for exhaust. So really the most important reason why I printed this out was so that we can have the factory torque specs and sequences for installing the cams. So it's telling you which bolts to tighten at which inch-pounds, and then you gotta go on to the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one. So we'll get to that. No. There's 2 of them that are marked white, And there's 2 of them that are marked yellow and blue.
If I had to guess, the white's probably intake.
Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to look it up then. Well, thanks for your help. So I cannot find for the life of me on the internet which position to put the new cams in. Because usually when we take out cams out of an engine, we put it in the exact way, you know, that it's supposed to be in the engine. So let's say that's the front of the engine. We have the exhaust cam, intake cam, exhaust cam. So when I look at the set right here that we took out of the G, you could tell that 2 of them are bigger because I have them all lined up right here. 2 of them are bigger than the other 2, and obviously this is going to be for the driver's side because the head is shifted back a little bit because it's a V6, and that's how you tell which cylinder is number 1. So you got number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The passenger side bank is going to be a little bit closer because of that V6 design. So when we're looking at our new cams, we can see the 2 bigger ones up here and the 2 smaller ones right here. Obviously these are going to be passenger and these are going to be driver. But my question now is which one is intake and which one is exhaust? So I started looking for differences in these cams over here. It brought me over to the front of the cams. You can see like different parts of the cam where it's polished and where it's not. You can tell that on the intake cams they're polished right on the ends, and on the exhaust cams they're polished right here inside a little bit. So when I was looking at these through the plastic bag, it's kind of hard to tell. But on this intake cam, you can tell it's polished on the outside, and on this exhaust cam, it's polished on the inside. Same thing here on the larger one, intake, polished outside, exhaust, polished on the inside. So you guys can see there's already a little bit of lubrication from the factory on these new cams. But what we're gonna go ahead and do is make sure that they are oiled up before we go ahead and put them in the channels. We also wanna make sure that the channels here are oiled up as well. The correct product to use is bearing protector, but we don't have any of that, so we're just gonna be using some brand new oil. Alright guys, so before we go ahead and install these cams, there's something really important that I wanted to show you guys on these cam channels. So we did talk about it in the last video. As you guys can also see here, there is a little bit of scrapage inside these cam channels. We did also have a little bit of scrapage on our old cams, and we don't want to set our new cams into something so rough so that they get beat up too. So I have a method on what I used on the other bank to go ahead and smoothen those channels up. So this channel on the other bank was the most damaged out of the 3, and I was able to smoothen it down. I was able to feel it pretty roughly with my fingernail, and now my fingernail goes pretty smooth over it. So there may be still some more indents, but at least it doesn't come up and towards the cam. So what I'm using to smoothen out these cam channels is 3000 grit sandpaper, which is the finest grit that I can find at my local Home Depot. And I'm also using this 1/2 inch 12mm socket. This 12mm socket is just small enough to fit inside of that groove, and once you wrap some sandpaper around the socket, just put some oil on it, and then you can go ahead and start sanding down all of the rough grooves that are in these channels. So I'm taking a piece of sandpaper, I'm gonna go ahead and rip it, just like that. I'm gonna wrap it around my socket right here. One of the master techs over at the Honda that I work at, they told me about this method, and it works great. So I got my oil right here. I'm just gonna go ahead and dab it, put it on the sandpaper. Now we're gonna take the socket, put it inside. Well, we also wanna put some oil inside the channel. But yeah, go ahead and put the socket inside the channel and then just start rotating it. And it'll start sanding down all of those microscopic cuts that are inside the channel. It'll start smoothing it down, and it'll provide a nice little polished surface for our new cams. The oil is what's protecting it from unevenly sanding as well as scratching any further. You want to push the socket like up against the sides and not just keep it up in the middle as well, just to prevent some uneven sanding. But it's pretty hard to mess this up. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a rag and wipe off all of the oil that now has little fine fragments of aluminum on it. Go ahead and wipe down the surface, and you guys can't really see it, but it's way shinier and it's super smooth to the touch. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this to all of the rest of the channels on this bank because I took care of the other bank already, and then we'll get them nice and smooth and go ahead and drop our cams in. For the channels that are really scraped up, I'm using multiple sandpapers on it, but you can pretty much use one piece of sandpaper for each channel. Guys, check out that shine. It is like so much better than it was. You can't even see the grooves really. That's awesome. Compared to that one that I didn't do yet, you can still see it's a little chewed up. So I got these first 3 done. They're looking real good, nice and shiny. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off the other 3 off camera, and then we're gonna go ahead and jump into installing the new cams. Alright guys, so I got my glove, I got my cap of new oil. What I'm gonna do is just go ahead and make sure everything that the camshaft is gonna touch is lubricated. So all the channels, all the journals, all that good stuff. You guys are also gonna wanna make sure that the new camshaft gets lubed up as well. Alright guys, so here I have the intake cam. Went ahead and lubricated everything up with the oil. On the face of it, you're gonna have a big dowel and a small dowel. You're gonna wanna make sure that small dowel is facing upwards. So just like that, and then lay it in. While you're doing this, you want to be really careful, make sure you don't damage any of your channels. So now when you're installing the exhaust cam, you're gonna wanna make the big dowel upwards. All right guys, check it out. We got our Jim Wolf cams inside. All right guys, so I'm at kind of a standstill right now because I'm gonna have to go to Home Depot or a parts store to try to get a little claw grabbing tool that's also a magnet or something that I can use to put down the spark plug tube and grab the little piece that Jesse broke off of my magnet here. That's supposed to clip onto your shirt. Yeah, that's kind of bent and stuck in our cylinder too. The reason why I have to get that first before I can continue is because I have to make sure that the each cylinder is at top dead center before I can measure the clearance. So I'm gonna cut the video right here. I'm gonna try and get that little piece that's stuck in there out of there, and hopefully we don't have to remove the whole freaking head to get to it. Also guys, I don't know why I've been saying C8 cams. These are actually the S7 cams. I actually was gonna buy the C8 cams when I was on the phone with the guy over at Njuku. For my setup, it was best to go with the JWT S7 cam setup. So yeah. Also down here on the bottom, it shows our intake and exhaust clearances that we gotta be at, the specs that we gotta be at. So that's also pretty cool. Thank you guys. So yeah, I'm gonna cut it right now until tomorrow, and we're gonna try and get that shit out of there. What up guys? Alright, so it's the next day. We got our boy Jesse over here. He actually already saved the day for us. So what we did in order to get that that little metal piece that was inside of piston number 2, what we did was we installed the camshaft for the exhaust, went ahead and torqued everything down for that, and then we were able to turn it so that it was pushing the exhaust valves open. So then with those exhaust valves open, we were able to use, oh nice. So we use this little guy, so we're able to wiggle it around and bend it so that we can actually get it into a position that we need to get it to. Put it right through those valves, and with a little bit of finesse, oh, and that awesome ass light that he's got. With a little bit of finesse, we're able to wiggle it out of that valve right there. So we don't have to take out the head.
Thanks, Brian, for letting me borrow your magnet.
Dude, I was gonna ask a tech, bro, for one of these, and it was 5 o'clock and they were all gone. And I was like, fuck, I totally forgot. So thank you, Brian. So right now we're working on putting the cams in the right spot, and then we're gonna be torquing down everything down to the torque specs. If you guys want, you guys can go ahead and pause the video. This is showing the factory torque specs for the camshafts, the sequence, and how many inch-pounds you guys should torque them down to. I will also be leaving a link in the description so you guys can view the full service manual. So pretty much want to work from the inside out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9, 10. So the cam main bearing cap right here, obviously you're going to want to put RTV all around it so it can seal to the front cover as well as to the valve cover flange. Right now we're just mocking it up so we can get some valve clearance measurements, and then we will be later on adding the RTV. We had already measured the valve clearance over there on those 2 exhaust valves on cylinder 6. So right now we're gonna go on cylinder 4. We're gonna go ahead and move the camshaft.
Gonna go.
So what is this called?
What is what called?
Like when it's facing up like that and
This?
Yeah.
Top dead center.
Really?
Well, that's when the piston's all the way up, but like this?
Yeah. So pretty much when the cam lobes are facing upward and they're not having any pressure on the buckets at all, that's when we're gonna go ahead and start measuring them. So we went ahead and adjusted that cam so that they're facing upward, and there should be some sort of a gap in between that lower lobe and the hat. And that's what we're gonna measure right now. We had already found out that we're gonna have to replace these 2 buckets over here with a slightly smaller size so that we are within spec. So I have the service manual specs as well as the JWT quick paper that they gave us. On the JWT paper, you can see everything's in inches. but over here on the service manual, you got inches and millimeters. So pretty much for the cold intake side, you want to be between 0.26 and 0.34 millimeters, and on the exhaust, 0.29 and 0.37 millimeters.
Our 23 does not. Oh, it barely fits,
Yeah, it
just like
does.
the other ones.
Good. So we pretty much measured 0.23 on, so far, all of the exhaust hats. Alright guys, so we got 0.23 measurements on all of the exhaust cams. We went ahead and measured while they were open. Cylinder 2 on the intake side, we are actually within spec over here. We're at 0.28, when we should be between 0.26 and 0.34. So that's looking pretty good.
All right, so here's a 0.3. Yeah, doesn't fit.
Nice.
0.28.
0.28, good deal. Weird as in how. Nice. Very nice. So all of our exhaust ones are out. All of our intake ones are in. So now we're gonna do this side. So that pretty much gives you guys a basic idea on how you guys can check the valve clearance. Once you guys install your new cams, we're gonna go ahead and get started on the passenger bank now. Go ahead and take care of those cams installation and check the valve clearance on those as well. I'll let you guys know in a second. All right guys, so we got that passenger side bank all set with the camshaft installation. Went ahead and torqued them down. Like I said, we didn't add any RTV yet because right now we're just getting some valve clearance. Probably gonna have to uninstall them to install some new hats. Over here, all of our intake ones were within spec, but all of our exhaust ones, unfortunately, were out of spec. So we're gonna have to order some new hats for that.
Aaron has to buy more hats now. For like $24 fucking.
Each fucking
A hat.
hat, dude. I'm already like 120 bucks in on this side. Probably gonna be another 120 bucks on this side. Shit! So what happens if we don't do anything with the hat and we just fucking run the engine?
So I was waiting for you to ask that question.
What if I don't spend this $200 right now?
Alright, so for example, these ones are too big, so we're gonna have to get smaller ones. So what's gonna happen is when the engine heats up, parts are gonna heat up and they're gonna expand. When that happens, the valve lifter is gonna be resting on the cam. It's not gonna seat properly and you're gonna get leakage through your exhaust valves. You don't want that.
Yeah, no, you don't want leakage through exhaust valves at all. That's loss of power, right?
Well, yeah, and you could destroy the shit out of your header and valves and...
Oh. Nice. Got some compression on there. Don't let it suck your glove all the way in there. Alright guys, so take a look at this scribble mess right here. Only I can make sense of this right now. Me and Jesse, we just kind of went crazy with all the measurements. So here's pretty much the formula that we put together. Check it out, guys. We got our Christmas stuff up. We got that joy. We got them sleigh rides for 25 cents. Got that Christmas tree. We got lights everywhere. And we got a Jesse. What are you doing? Most of our intake hats for the driver's side bank, they were all in spec, so I didn't have to buy any of the intake ones. They're pretty much right on the edge of being in spec, and these hats are expensive, so I'm going to save those. We're going to keep the original ones. Down here on the intake side for the passenger bank, we got a few of them that are in spec. We got these two, but these two are not in spec. They're at 0.25, so they're supposed to be between 0.26 and 0.34, as it shows right there. They're at 0.25, so they're slightly under, so we're definitely have to adjust them. We're going to want to come up to pretty much a 0.30. In order to get there, we got to add a 0.05 on there. So coming from our original measurements of 8.123, we're going to be up at 8.173. So that's our new shim right there, these little numbers in pen. The original ones I wrote in Sharpie, so that's our original thickness. And then we want to be able to get to this type of clearance. So then we have to add the difference and then come up with our new numbers, which is right here. So all of the new hats I had to buy was 8.26, 8.22, 8.24, 8.2, 8.22, 8.22, a bunch of different hats. So as you can see on Zeal Motorsports, I went ahead and added them to my cart. I'm ordering them by the thickness, so you guys can order them custom by the thickness. And once I get those in, we're gonna go ahead and pop them in and hopefully finish up the rest of the motor. Let's do it. So Jesse actually found a nice detailed description of the formula. I'm gonna go ahead and leave that down in the description, so help you guys out a little bit better in figuring that out. So that's gonna be about it for this video. I wanna thank you guys so much for watching. When we come back, we're gonna be installing the new hats and pretty much reassembling everything back together. It's gonna be pretty interesting trying to get the timing right, because if we fuck up the timing, then we're just fucking up everything else in the engine, and all of our hard work is down the drain. So we gotta pay super close attention when we're setting up that timing. But that'll be soon to come. So I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you guys cop some G35 merch. Go over to DoubleASupply.com. I think you got one more day or so of that coupon code OG20 for 20% off. If you guys like this video, make sure you smash that like button. If you guys are not following along and don't have the notifications on, hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and I'm gonna catch you guys in the next video.